And welcome to this LEX 18 digital conversation. I'm Dia Davidson. Our guest today has been on the forefront of fighting poverty, advocating for affordable living, education, and diversity here in Lexington. So we want to welcome Urban League President PG Peeples. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
You know, this is a topic that is near and dear to your heart.
Yes.
I remember meeting you almost 18 years ago, and you sat me down in your office and you said, let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. So let's have a conversation now. In the time that I've even been here,
yes,
diversity in Lexington? Because remember, I told you when I first got here, I was like, where are we? Where's the, I said, where is the Sally's Beauty Supply? Where are we? So where are we today?
Well, just depends on what prisms you're looking through. I would love to have said, be sitting here saying that we've made tremendous strides, and we have in some senses. Right. But it's kind of confusing right now. Sure. Because it seems like it's
two step forwards, one step back.
Yeah, that's what I call that civil rights cha-cha.
Right.
Two step.
Yeah.
And even worse right now in terms of some of the movement back. This is 2017.
Right.
And the president just signed off on something that's going to take us backwards in terms of transgender participation in the military.
Sure, sure.
The Attorney General came out the other day talking about some other kind of reversals. I think a lot of his agenda has to do with reversing voter rights and those kinds of things. Right. Martin Luther King is probably turning over in his grave, sure, thinking that we are having those kinds of conversations.
Especially on the heel of having the first African-American, identifiably African-American, because historians say that there have been those who have had brown in them that have served as president, but of course Barack Obama being the first.
Remember the morning after Barack Obama was first elected, and I was having an interview with a local station, and one of the questions was, have we arrived? Is it all over? Do we have, is there no reason to be fighting anymore?
Right.
And my response was probably more so.
Right.
Because those who were aggravated by him being elected.
Twice.
The first time when he was, they went into a different mode. Right. A pushback resistant mode. And I think a lot of that still carried over and played into the successful election of Donald Trump.
Many say that that was a group that the Democrats did not even factor in to the equation.
That was a bad mistake, tragic mistake. I think back to, and I paid particular attention during election time to ads that they run. Most ads that were run in the state of Kentucky, regardless of what the position was, they would have a photo of Obama in the background. Right. The subtlety of that, the message that carried, the number of people I've heard over the years say things as dumb as, I don't want Obamacare, but I'm satisfied with the Affordable Care Act.
And they're one in this state. Many people here in the state of Kentucky have benefited.
I'm talking about here. I'm talking about here.
And here in Fayette County as well.
Exactly.
So how do we move forward? How do we sort of get past this hiccup, if you will, and move forward?
We just got to persist. We've got those of us who do this, and those of us who doing the right things for the right reasons. You just got to keep doing it. Right. You got to keep pushing your educational systems to do right by our kids and close the academic achievement gap. You've got to keep pushing police departments across this country to have proper training for the police officers and not follow the guidance of our president who says mistreat them. That's just two of the things. We've got to keep, we're still talking about the employment gap. It's sometimes kind of depressing. However, what keeps me going when I feel a bit of depression is I think about what I am going through compared to what people before me who showed us what they went through. Then I get up and go again.
And trying to make it better for the next.
That's our role. That's our role. And not just those of us who work in civil rights, but all of us. We have a responsibility to try to make this world a better place than it was. For the little time that we have on this earth.
Let's talk a little bit about affordable housing. And you're talking about the economic gap. The Urban League has been instrumental in making sure that all facets of the community have good and affordable housing. That's been challenging for you, hasn't it?
Very challenging. We've been involved in it since about 1984. We took a look at some of our neighborhoods, especially downtown neighborhoods. We looked at some of the dilapidated housing that people were being forced to live in, and we said, well, at least we can make a difference here, be it one unit at a time, one block at a time, or one building at a time. And we launched our housing program. We sit here today, about $28 million worth of affordable housing that we've made available, that we're making available for people, and it impacts on the tax base. It's good for families. Yeah. It's good for families. We find that we work on home ownership and providing safe, sanitary rental property. And one of the things that kind of gets away from people because we haven't done it lately is the number of ex-inmates that we trained earlier on when we had our housing program. That was when the federal government would fund us to train ex-inmates, returning to our community, and then transitioning them from being dependent into self-sufficiency and being able to provide for themselves and their families. Those guys, when they would be involved in building a house, oftentimes that's probably the first positive thing that they really done in their lives that they could show off. And they would bring their families around to see.
And that builds self-esteem, and from self-esteem then becomes something even greater, doesn't it?
It molded families families. Because a lot of these guys were absentee fathers, but they got a chance to show their kids.
And change the course of generational, and break the cycle of generational poverty.
We also sold homes to a large number of single mothers who were raising families. And what was joyous about that deal is that one of the things we used to try to do is once a buyer was approved, we try to get them approved early on so that they can go through the process of selecting colors and so forth. And they would come and the kids would be running through the house, picking their rooms and those kinds of things. But most low-income people always thought that this was only for people on the other side of town. I've gone to closings. I have so many times I've heard people say, I just never thought that this would happen to me.
And I can see the passion. I can hear the passion. This is truly a labor of love for you, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I can sit in my office any day now, and I might feel a little heavy. I can get in my car and I can drive over the Chestnut Street, over one of those, and drive down the street and see a family sitting on the porch, see kids playing in the yard, and hey, then I know that what we're doing is the right thing. What we do, some people ask, when are you going to retire?
Never.
I'm going to retire from that job. I don't have a job.
Right.
It's a calling.
Yes.
Yeah. 49 September Labor Day will be 49 years for me.
You're kidding. Wow.
Next year, next summer will be 50 years for the Urban League, and we are really looking forward to celebrating all of 2018.
A lot of people are saying, you know, the civil rights movement, the organizations and outgrowths, that they're antiquated, that they don't, you know, they're things of the past that, you know, we have overcome, we don't need, you know, all of that. But they still are integral parts and necessary parts, aren't they?
The song said, "We shall overcome."
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard anybody
Right.
ludicrous enough to sing a song that said, "We have overcome."
Right.
We have not.
Right.
And the other thing is, if you're in the civil rights arena working,
Yes.
there are other people on the other side working against you. So you have to remember that they are developing other strategies to counter what we're trying to do. So that's why you've got to stay persistent. You've got to always be willing to tweak your plan. You do different things. Develop surprise attacks.
Right.
It's just that important. That and we've got to be concerned about growing the next generation of people to do what we do. The next generation of people to do what you do.
Right, exactly.
Because, you know, I've been around here long enough to remember the days when people didn't look like you doing this.
Right.
And, you know, I appreciate where we are, but we have to monitor this all the time. Because I've seen, not just in telecommunications, but in other occupations, I've seen if we monitor, people usually do the right thing. You look the other way, and before you know it, there's slippage, and the wagon is run back down the hill. Right. So that's why I say we have to be persistent. And anybody who's saying that we've arrived and we shouldn't be fighting these fights, they haven't been discriminated again lately. I've noticed in the business that oftentimes it's not as much. I mean, the tactics don't change that much. The perpetrators do.
Right. Education. That's always been a way for groups of individuals to propel themselves and the group forward.
Absolutely. It's the key.
When I first got here, you had grave concerns
Yes.
about education here in Fayette County. We have Manny Calk, first African-American superintendent.
Yes.
Have we moved past 18 years? Are we in a better place?
First of all, that's one of the major mistakes that we make, because, you know, we fight together in Manny Calk in the seat. But it's not magical that the next day, you know, things are going to change.
Change, exactly.
No, I mean, and that's unfair to him.
Right.
What we've got to do as a community is rally behind him, just like we did any of his other predecessors. We've also got to hold him as accountable as we held any of his predecessors. But the real key is that this community mobilized, that it galvanized, and that we believe that every child can learn. You know, one of the real problems with this district for a long time was the selectivity of that certain kids are going to be successful, and some people just thought that they had the right to, the privilege to write some kids off. Nobody does. Nobody does.
No.
You know, as educators and as community leaders, it's our responsibility to keep trying until we hit the right button and the light
and spark
comes on for that kid. There are so many success stories in this world today that may have taken 2 or 3 tries before it happened. But when it happened, it was.
If you could paint a picture for the future, if you could say or dream of the America, the Lexington, the Kentucky that you want to see, what would it be?
Where everybody respected one another, where everybody believed that the next person has as much right as that I believe have as much right as I do to do whatever my desires, my education, my abilities provide for me. I heard one time that there was in the Deep South there, a young man was going off to college, and someone told his father that, well, you know, we're not going to put him in there just because he's black. And the father said, and I don't want you to put up a roadblock just because he's black. Everybody should have the opportunity. That's right. You know, history shows that if you take the roadblocks and the impediments out of the way, we are made of good stuff. We do okay.
Yeah. Survivors.
Oh, of course we are.
So many people want to say that affirmative action was a free pass, but I always like to say that affirmative action only allowed presentation to the table.
That's all. That's all. And who would, again, go back to what we talked about earlier, that they're now talking about trying to roll back the affirmative action issues. That is so superficial that it's a lie. That's what it is. It's not. No. Nobody's trying to. Affirmative action does not give anybody any edge. All it does is level the playing field, because you still got to produce.
That's right.
You still got to produce. And one other thing that I would say, and I can say this because for 40-some years I have lived in this city and in this world where most of my awake hours are spent where I'm usually the only or one of a few African Americans in this setting. Right. And what people have to, that's stressful itself.
Lonely too,
very lonely.
Yes. Very,
very lonely. You don't have many people that you can share with and they can understand what you go through. Right. So the civil rights movement is far from being over. We're a long ways from having reached the mountaintop that Dr. King talked about. Right. But I believe, I still have hope, I still have faith. As the next week, when school opens, we will be visiting the schools. We'll see all these little bright, shining faces and kids who still who come there expecting to be taught, expecting to be given the best that the school system can offer them, and that's the invigorating thing that keeps us going there. That's what keeps us going.
And teaching the history,
You know, it's tragic the number of years that educational systems all over this country refused to teach Black history, or they did it only during Black History Month, which was
the shortest month of the year.
Very offensive, very, very, very offensive. But that history is not just for us.
It's America's
history.
It's
America's history. It's for all of. It's for all of us. The more we know about each other, the better we should be able to coexist.
Indeed. PG, always good to see you. Always good to see you. And we want to thank you for tuning in for this LEX 18 digital conversation. Be sure to follow us on lex18.com for more digital conversations. I'm Dia Davidson. Until next time.